the only way to truth is through facts.
The entire Christian faith hinges on the resurrection of Jesus. If it didn't happen, it's a house of cards.
You just have to show that Jesus died and he was seen after.
How can we be sure of the reliability of those manuscripts?
Archaeologists have recovered 5,843 Greek New Testament manuscripts. Nothing else in history even comes close.
Do you trust the Journal of the American Medical Association?
Yes, Jesus Christ died on that cross.
You're not telling me what I hope to hear today.
What if it is true? Wouldn't you want to know that?
The first recorded account tells us that he was buried in a tomb. The empty tomb is based on evidence. Isn't evidence your trade?
Faith is the evidence of things we can't actually see.
Any careful historian will see that the core account is consistent, even if a few of the secondary details are told from different perspectives.
500 separate people saw Jesus at the same time.
That would be an even bigger miracle than the resurrection itself.
The disciples reported what actually
People with
happened.
zero motivation to lie.
When is enough evidence enough evidence?
I felt something that is maybe more real than anything I've ever felt in my life.
This is not a condition anyone could.
Still takes a leap of faith.
But why would he do it? It's really very simple. Love.
All right, God. You win.
Decided at a rather young age that God does not and cannot exist. I mean, I thought that God didn't create people, but people created God. Why? Because they're afraid of death. Leslie came up to me and said, Lee, I made a big decision in my life. I said, what? She said, I've decided to become a follower of Jesus Christ. I got a good idea. I'll just disprove Christianity, because then I'll get her out of this cult and we can go back to our life the way it was. Because I knew the key to everything is the resurrection of Jesus. Why? Because Jesus, in a variety of different ways, directly and indirectly, made transcendent and messianic and divine claims about himself. He claimed to be the Son of God. At one point, he gets up before a group, John 10, verse 30. And he says, I and the Father are one. And the word in Greek there for one is not masculine, it's neuter. Which means Jesus was not saying I and the Father are the same person. He was saying I and the Father are the same thing. We're one in nature. We're one in essence. Jesus was dead after being crucified. And I learned very quickly as I did my investigation, there is no dispute among scholars in the field. And I'm not just talking about Christian scholars. I'm talking about the wide range of scholarship around the planet. There is virtually no dispute among ancient historians that Jesus was dead after being crucified under Pontius Pilate. We're lucky if we get one or maybe two sources to confirm a fact. And yet, for the death of Jesus, we not only have multiple early first century accounts in the records that are contained in the New Testament, we've also got 5 ancient sources outside the Bible confirming and corroborating his death. We have early accounts or early reports that Jesus rose from the dead. In other words, reports that come virtually immediately after his death. Critics believe, as I used to believe, that, wait a minute, I'll tell you why the tomb is empty. The body was never really in it. Don't you know they didn't bury crucifixion victims? I checked it out. What did I find? I found that when you read the Digesta, which is a summary of the Roman law and procedure from the first century, it specifically says that crucifixion victims, execution victims can be buried. Began proclaiming that Jesus had risen. What the opponents of Jesus never said was, baloney, go open the tomb and you'll find the body. What the opponents said was, the disciples stole the body. What is that? That's a cover story. They're implicitly conceding the tomb is empty. Not only was Jesus' tomb discovered empty, but over a period of time, Jesus appears alive in a dozen different instances to more than 515 people. In light of the avalanche of evidence that points so powerfully toward the truth of Christianity, I realized it would take more faith to maintain my atheism than to become a Christian.